Alright, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be filling out my initial reaction bracket. Um, the brackets just came out 2 hours ago. I've been sitting here looking at a bunch of stats and stuff for the last few hours, and yeah, I'm ready to fill out my raw reactions. First, obviously, gotta go with Duke. And this is the very first game of the tournament here, Ohio State versus TCU. Obviously, you got two great teams. Bruce Thornton is really good. I feel like it is finally time for Bruce Thornton to get it done in March. He's too much of a veteran to not. Um, yeah, after all these years of barely being able to get in and struggling, so I do think I'm going to go with Ohio State here. Obviously, this is going to be a tough one because it's the very first game, and a lot of people are going to be going either ways. Yeah, huge bracket buster to open the day. But moving on, we got St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I think St. John's is underseeded. I think they're way too high on their line. They're such a good team, but obviously Northern Iowa's defense is so good. Obviously, we can just see already the 11.5 line. Like, that's really, really strong for a 5-12, which is one of the most susceptible upset lines. Yeah, 64%. But I don't think this is the one we take, and we will look into that later. Same thing with Kansas. I do think that Darren Peterson will show up. Finally silence the haters a little bit. Obviously, Kansas is just too good. They got too many weapons. They play a way better schedule. And obviously, looking at this, we have for Cal Baptist, we have domination here. I mean, to BYU, like, they're just not gonna be a good enough team to ultimately beat Kansas. This Louisville South Florida matchup is going to be one of the biggest upset picks, I feel like, for the 6-11 matchup. Could go either way. Obviously, we have injuries with Mikael Brown right now and just some ultimate struggles. And UCF is hot, or USF is hot. They've won their last 12 games, I believe, something crazy like that, all the way up to their conference tournament championship. So they're hotter than a pistol, and that's what you want in March. Do I think they can get it done? Yes, but I don't know if this is what I want to take. But for the love of it, I think I'm going to go with South Florida here. Moving on, Michigan State versus North Dakota State. Tom Izzo is just too good. Yeah, obviously we see the loss to UCLA, which is going to be a crazy Sweet 16 matchup here. Obviously, we got North Dakota State just not playing great. Obviously, a nice win against Drake there, I guess. But I don't know. It just has to be Michigan State here. And this is a 7-12 or 7-10 here. Very tricky game. UCLA is 6.5 favorites. I do think this is the year of Donovan Dent. And I really like how UCLA has been really hot recently. Gonna ride them. And UConn. Danny Hurley is not losing to Furman, to repeat. Yeah, I think we'll just continue with the East here. Unfortunately for Ohio State and TCU, like, this is just such a tough matchup in the round of 32. We have to go with Duke here. They're just too good. St. John's versus Kansas. Oof. Subi Ejiofor. I still do think that... Man, 50-50. Wow. I do still think that St. John's is underseeded for where they're at. They've just been playing really well recently. I'm going to have to go with St. John's here just due to Kansas's volatility and ultimately just some struggles down the stretch here. Michigan State versus South Florida. I think the South Florida Cinderella ends here. And even if Louisville wins this game, we're going to hedge it anyways and go with Michigan State, not even mess around. With an 11 seed in the Sweet 16, I just don't feel like that's what I want to go with to ruin my bracket here. I think we want to stay with our chalk seeds to make it far. Man, this is an upset I have looked into a lot here, UCLA over UConn. Obviously, we got Mike Cronin versus Dan Hurley, two elite coaches. I don't know. I think this is the one I like. I feel like Donovan Dent is gonna show up, and I just love him as a player. Phenomenal guard. I am gonna take UCLA over UConn here to run up with a big Cinderella seed. St. John's Duke. Obviously, Duke has been facing some injuries. We have Caleb Foster out and Patrick Ngungba, who's out as well. Obviously, I think it is Ngungba that's going to be back. I think Foster's out indefinitely. I think Ngungba will be back. Either way, they're down 2 of their starters and still won the ACC tournament. Obviously, they played a close game against Virginia. Snuck it out, won by 4, but I still do think Duke makes it to the Elite 8 here. They're not going to fall susceptible to Zuby Ejiofor and the Johnnies. As for Michigan State, UCLA, another tough matchup. I just think that Jeremy Fears and Michigan State are still going to be able to get it done. Obviously, man, I love Donovan Dent, but I just think after this recent loss to UCLA, I just don't think UCLA is going to be able to get it done twice, as it's so hard to beat a team twice, especially on a neutral court, that I do think I'm going to go with Izzo and his Michigan State Spartans again. As for this matchup, this would mean Michigan State gets hot, and Duke just plays how people expect them to play. It's tough matchup, man, but I think I have to go with Duke here just for consistency. I feel like Duke is that good of a team that they're just gonna stay hot and stay in the Final Four. I don't know if I'll have them go to the championship game just in case they do get upset eventually. But I think Duke is one of the most consistent teams that they just don't lose games. So we will have Duke be our first team into the Final Four. All right, going on to the West region here. We're going to begin with Arizona over Long Island, the Sharks. Unfortunately, I do not think that Long Island Sharks keep their fins up, and Arizona wins in an easy first-round matchup. Secondly, Villanova versus Utah State is a very interesting 8-9 here. Utah State's actually favored, and I mean, I feel like they're a little high even for a 9 seed. Like, I feel like they are a really good team. Obviously, we see the -1.5. It's interesting for a 9 seed to be favored, but I do think I'm riding with them, as Villanova has been susceptible to injuries and just an inconsistent finish to their year. So I'm going to go with Utah State in the first round here. This 5-12 and 4-13 is one of the most interesting things that we've ever seen. We have 2 teams that are hot. Arkansas just won the SEC tournament, and we have Wisconsin, who's just hotter than a pistol. Obviously, High Point is going to be a Cinderella team that a lot of people are very high on. Do they have what it takes to beat Wisconsin? I don't know. I feel like Boyd and Blackwell are just 2 veterans that are not going to fall susceptible to a Cinderella upset here. I think they make it on to the round of 32. Same with Arkansas, Hawaii. Obviously, this probably won't be a super highly picked upset. I think Darius Acuff is just made to win games in the clutch. He's just too good. He averaged 30 points, I think 31 almost, points in their conference tournament. I think he's just too good to lose to a Cinderella seed here. This next one is interesting. We got Texas and NC State versus an upcoming BYU. I do think this is literally a 50-50 game. Man, I don't even know who I like here. I might like Texas to beat NC State. Obviously, it's not going to matter for this. But I do think AJ DeBansta will get it done in the first round here. I think for him and Rob Wright are still a strong duo, even without Richie Saunders. I feel like we got BYU moving on. And even with their huge upset to Portland State, I think Gonzaga is still just going to dominate Kennesaw State. Moving on, Gonzaga, easy pick. If they lose, I'm very sorry, but also Vegas isn't going to lie to us with the -18.5 line here. And, yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen. Miami, Missouri, very interesting matchup here. I do think Miami is a really good team that I'm really high on. They just, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough pick. I don't really have a whole lot of information to give you guys on either of these two teams, but I do think I'm going to stick with my gut and go with Miami as they're a very hot and consistent team right now. Purdue Queens. Purdue's not going to fall to an upset here. We're not going to have another FDU repeat. We're moving on with Purdue. Going back up to the top. Arizona's too good. Jaden Bradley, Burries, Koa-Pete. They're not going to lose to a Utah State team here. Now this is interesting. Any of these 4 teams could really make it to the Sweet 16. I do think I'm going to rock with Arkansas though. This is tough. Based on just top, just how I'm feeling right now, I do think dekeF is just made to win games. Obviously, has Malik Thomas to back him up with that as well. I think the Boyd and Blackwell duo finally comes to an end, and dekeF and the Arkansas Razorbacks are going to move on. BYU Gonzaga is very interesting. Obviously, these are 2 teams who have lost 2 of their best players. We have Richie Saunders out as he was in the big 3 for BYU, and also Braden Huff has been out all year almost, or for a majority of the last part of the season for Gonzaga. I do think Gonzaga has still been able to perform even without him. Yeah, obviously you see him. He's still noted on their second best players here, top players. But I do think Gonzaga has been able to perform well without him. It hasn't affected them that much. They've recovered well from that loss. I'm going to go with the Gonzaga Bulldogs here. Miami, Purdue. This is a tough matchup. The right answer is Purdue, but obviously there's a lot of things that can happen. Purdue's never been that good in March, but I did take UCLA over UConn in the last one. I don't think we're going to test our luck again. We're going to move on with Purdue here. Going back up to the top, dekeF versus Burries and Bradley, Malik Thomas. It's tough. I think I have to go with Arizona, though. I think Arizona is my favorite to win the national title. I think they've proven themselves to be one of the best teams in the country after their Big 12 performance. Obviously knocked off Iowa State within an incredible fashion. Bradley proved himself as the Big 12 Player of the Year. I think we're going to go with Arizona here. Gonzaga, Purdue, extremely tough matchup. Graham Ike has been able to hold his own. Yeah, almost averaging 20 points per game. Braden Smith and the Fletcher Lawyer, Kaufman, Wren, Clough. Great team, very veteran team this year. Don't think they have what it takes in March. We're going to go with Gonzaga here. Make things interesting. Moving on, like I said, I think Arizona is going to be my favorite to win this year. So I have to pick them. I got to stick with my gut. Yeah. I don't know. It's tough, but I'm just going to go with my gut here and take Arizona into the Final Four for my second spot. Okay. Moving down to the South region. This is where the 4th 1 seed Florida finds its home. We are going to pick them to move on. I think they're playing like Prairie View A&M and Lehigh. It doesn't say there, but yeah. Florida's not losing that game. They have too good of a backcourt. Their guard play is really good. Yeah, Florida's moving on. Clemson, Iowa is a big matchup. I think this game is virtually a 50-50 game. We have a fresh Iowa team. First-year head coach. I don't know where I'm going to go with this game. I think I'm going to go with Iowa here. I think I like Iowa over Clemson. It's tough. I think this game is another 50-50 game that a lot of people are going to lose on, but I like my 9s here. As I'm going to go, yep. I think the 2 9s that I'm going to go with here are Utah State and Iowa. Maybe St. Louis, but we'll get there when I get there. So, yeah. I'm going to take Bennett Sturts and the Hawkeyes to move on this year. I think they can get it done. Moving on to Vanderbilt versus McNeese. I think Vanderbilt is very, very underseeded. I think they're way too high as a 5. I think they should be a lot lower. Um, Vanderbilt is a great team, and they just proved that as they just dominated Florida in the semifinals of the conference tournament, the ACC tournament, or SEC, whatever. Um, yeah, not falling for the McNeese bait again. Obviously, they've been a hot team with upset picks in the last few years, but I'm not falling for it. Vanderbilt moves on. Now, this Troy versus Nebraska matchup is very interesting. Majority of the people are going to take Nebraska as they have been hot. They've been a great team. They've proven themselves to be a great team this year. Granted, they have never won a tournament game in the March Madness bracket. So I'm going to pick a 4-13 upset here and pick Troy to beat the Nebraska Huskers. Trends are trends, and I think we are going to stay with Nebraska to have 0 wins in the NCAA tournament. If that comes back to bite me, that's okay. We were going to take Vanderbilt to move on to the Sweet 16 anyways. Next, we have a very interesting matchup with an injured North Carolina team. Obviously, they still have Vassar to carry them. He's been performing really well with the loss of Caleb Wilson. But this VCU team is a team that people are very high on. Don't know a whole lot about them. I don't know. I feel like this is a hot upset to pick. I like it. I don't know much about it, but I'm high on upsets, and upsets and Cinderellas win you games in March. We're going to ride with VCU here. Next game, we have Illinois versus Penn. Penn actually just clinched their spot in the tournament today with a win over Yale. Big overtime win. TJ Power had 44 points, I believe, which is unbelievable. He had a great game tying 3 to force overtime with a second left. The Isevich brothers, Stojakovic and Keaton Wagler, are not going to lose to this Penn team. Very veteran coach, but Illinois is going to get it done. Next, we have a 7-10 matchup. We have Texas A&M versus St. Mary's. St. Mary's is one of the slowest paced teams in all of college basketball. Very consistent team. Don't know a whole lot about Texas A&M. Looks like a lot of their key games they've lost, with 2 wins over Auburn and Kentucky, 2 volatile teams as well. I don't think I like their consistency. Obviously, St. Mary's isn't a whole lot better. I like this win over Gonzaga. I think we're going to go with the Gales to move on. I think they're a weird team that can slow teams down and really throw them off based off their pace, so we're going to move on with St. Mary's. Houston, Idaho here. Houston's one of the best teams in the country, one of the best teams in the Big 12. I feel like they have a great, just great roster. They have Emmanuel Sharp, Kingston Flemings, Miles Uzan, just great players. They're not going to fall to a round of 64 upset. We're going to take Houston and move on here. Next, for our rounds of 32 in the South, we got Florida versus Iowa. This is a very tough matchup, but I don't think the Hawkeyes can get it done. We're going to move on with Florida here to move on to the Sweet 16. Now, an interesting matchup with Vanderbilt versus Troy. Obviously, there's a very high chance that Nebraska actually beats Troy, but I do like the underdog pick here. We're going to ride with Tyler Tanner as a very underseeded Vanderbilt team. We're going to move on with Vanderbilt to have another crazy matchup versus Vanderbilt versus Florida after the Vanderbilt just blew them out in the tournament, which is a very interesting matchup. We got the Cinderella VCU versus the number 3 Illinois. I think Illinois is too good of a team to lose. I think Illinois moves on handily here in the round of 32 and gets it done. Houston versus St. Mary's, very interesting matchup as well. Just the pace of St. Mary's just throws everything off for a loop, but I feel like the Houston team is way too experienced and just too good to even lose to a 7-10 matchup here. I think the Houston has national champion and even national championship upside. I think we have to ride with the Houston Cougars here. Next, we have an interesting matchup here with the Florida and Vanderbilt SEC semifinal game. Vanderbilt won handily against the Florida Gators, which is a very interesting thing as we were picking them. Like I said earlier in the game, in this video, I said it's very hard to beat a team twice on neutral court. I think we're gonna ride with the 4th 1 seed Florida Gators here. Obviously in a very tough matchup. I could see it going either way. And a few other brackets I might pick Vanderbilt, but for the sake of this bracket, I think we have to go with the Florida Gators. Now this is a very interesting matchup. We have the elite offense of Illinois versus the phenomenal defense of Houston. Both teams are just phenomenal. They've proven themselves to be elite just in many different ways. I think the Houston Cougar defense is able to shut down Keaton Wagler. And the offense of Illinois, I think Houston gets this one done with a crazy matchup of Houston versus Florida. Like I said, Houston's one of my favorites. Phenomenal team. I think I'm going to go with the Houston Cougars to beat Florida. I even might have Vanderbilt beat Florida here, but I think the Houston Cougars get to the Final Four and are the 3rd team in the Final Four. Okay. Now for the Midwest, the final region, the 4th region, we have Michigan versus UMBC versus Howard. Michigan is way too good of a team to lose to either of these. And Michigan honestly might be one of the favorites to win the national championship, so they're not losing to a 16 seed. Georgia versus St. Louis is a very interesting matchup here. We obviously have the fast-paced offense of Georgia versus the very volatile St. Louis. I don't know. This is a very close game. We got Robbie Avila. He's an icon of college basketball. And the St. Louis Billikens. 50-50 game. Don't know where I'm going to go with this. I almost like St. Louis, but I don't know if they have what it takes to beat a very fast-paced Georgia team. So we are going to move on with the Georgia Bulldogs. This is another very interesting region of the bracket here. Another heater of a 5-4 matchup. Any of these teams could go to the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, I think we haven't picked a 5-12 upset. No. Which means I think I'm going with the Akron Zips to beat the injured Texas Tech Raiders. JT Toppin is out with an ACL tear, and Christian Anderson just had a groin injury at the Big 12 tournament. I believe he's gonna be back, but I don't know. A 5-12 upset does happen at least once, I believe. At least 34 of the 40, yeah. So I think the Akron Zips are probably the most likely to get this done. Vanderbilt, I feel like Vanderbilt's way too good. St. John's is rated very high, and just Wisconsin Badgers are hotter than a pistol. So I think we are going to ride with the Akron Zips here to upset the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This game could go either way. Obviously, Christian Anderson is an elite guard. Yeah, for the fun of it, and just statistically, we are going to ride with the Akron Zips. Next, we have Alabama versus Hofstra. This is another very interesting matchup. Alabama is one of the fastest-paced teams in the country, and they shoot the most threes. So take that how you want. They're a team that lives or dies by the three, but also they have insane upside to make a huge run because of that. I think Phylon and Aiden Holloway are just two fantastic guards, and I don't think the Hofstra, what is their mascot? Owls? No, they're not Owls. Hofstra Pride have what it takes to beat the fast and elite team of Alabama Crimson Tide. So we are going to go with Alabama to have an interesting matchup against the Cinderella Akron here. Next, we have the 6-11 of Tennessee versus Miami, the winner of Miami, Ohio, and SMU. This is going to be a very interesting game. Tennessee has probably not lived up to their expectations this year. They have a great upside with Nate Ament backing them, but also the Miami, Ohio, SMU matchup is interesting because they get the game before, so that team could get rolling and beat them. I don't even know if Miami, Ohio can beat SMU though. Like that's such a interesting matchup. We have Boopy Miller and SMU. I can't even preview any of this. I think I just have to trust Amet in the Tennessee. Yeah, I think we're trusting Tennessee to get this one done. Very tricky matchup. I feel like a lot of people either love or hate Miami, Ohio, so that could go either way. SMU hasn't been awesome. They're decent. I think we just have to trust our gut and go with Tennessee here. Virginia, interesting thing. They play Wright State. They're probably one of the most the least talked about 3 seed of all in all of the March Madness bracket. Interestingly enough, they're 29-5. Sorry. They have interesting losses though. I know they lost to Butler early in the year, which is very interesting. Unfortunately, I don't think Wright State has what it takes. Yeah, just don't have what it takes. Virginia is a very consistent team, nothing crazy going on. They have elite shot blocking. I think they lead the nation in blocked shots per game. And also they rebound the ball well. So we're going to move on with Virginia here. Kentucky versus Santa Clara is a very interesting matchup. Obviously, a volatile Kentucky and a consistent Santa Clara team could make for an interesting round of 64 upset here. I don't know about this one. I feel like with my gut, I'm going to go with Santa Clara. I just don't like how Kentucky has been able to perform under pressure. But obviously, they have high upside and can upset big teams. Yeah, with big win over Vanderbilt and Tennessee. I just don't trust them enough. I think we have to go with the Santa Clara. What is their mascot even? Mascot. Broncos. Okay. Next, we have Iowa State versus Tennessee State. I do not see any ways that Iowa State can lose this game. I feel like our defense, unless I say our, I feel like Iowa State's defense is way too good to load up a Cinderella run. I don't know if Tennessee State has played much competition. Obviously, you have a big loss to Tennessee here, and they lost to the potential Cinderella of Belmont, but unfortunately, they lost to Drake in their conference tournament, so they are not in the tournament this year. Iowa State wins, no questions asked. And yeah, moving on, we have Michigan, Georgia. I don't even know if Georgia can win their first game, but I'm trusting them. I still have another no questions asked. Michigan, who has national champion upside potential here. Michigan gets it done. Akron versus Alabama makes for a very interesting game. I don't know much about Akron. Let's check them out here. Big loss to Purdue. Troy is another interesting team that we picked over Nebraska, actually. Yeah, I'm just going to trust the red hot Alabama to get this done. I trust that they're going to go on a run. If not, I'm very sorry. If they lose to Hofstra, well, there goes that, but that's going to be all right. Tennessee, Virginia is a very interesting matchup. Don't know which way I'm supposed to go with this, actually. Let me see here. Obviously, the right answer is Virginia based on statistics, but I don't know. Based on gut reactions, I just really like this Tennessee team. I love Nate Ament. I don't know why. Even though if he hasn't been performing at his highest level, I still really like him. He's one of my favorite players. I think he looks like Shia LaBeouf, which is one of my favorite actors, so I just have a natural tendency to like him. We're going to go with Tennessee to upset Virginia here, 9-32. Santa Clara, Iowa State. Very interesting matchup for Iowa State. Very scary matchup for Iowa State, actually, for that matter. I trust Iowa State. I feel like our big three with Milan, Josh, and Taman are going to get it done. I feel like this is their year. We're a completely healthy team. and last year we dealt with some injuries that led to our season ending short. I feel like this is Iowa State's year to make a move. Michigan, Alabama. Unfortunately, I feel like this is where Alabama and their three-point shooting and fast pace is able to be shut down by Michigan's length. Yeah, Michigan's just too good to let them get upset too early. I feel like they could easily win the entire tournament. We have to move on with the Michigan Wolverines here. Now we have the Tennessee. Now we have Tennessee versus Iowa State. Trusting my gut, I want to pick Iowa State really bad. Obviously, it's tough. Knowing Iowa State's volatility in the tournament, they've had some struggles recently. Hardly any Elite Eights in their entire history. But I do feel like this is their year to go out on a big run. And with our three-point shooting abilities this year and defensive strength, I feel like this is our year to shut teams down and make a run. Now in the Elite Eight, we have Michigan versus Iowa State. Tough matchup. Michigan's length is very hard for Iowa State. Lindenborg versus Jefferson is going to be a phenomenal matchup to watch. Obviously, Michigan's guard play could struggle against Iowa State's defense. Cadeau has been known to struggle under the physical pressure, which comes in heavily with Toure and Taman Lipsey on Iowa State, but I feel like with Michigan's size and just overall abilities to win games, I feel like we have Michigan moving on to the Final Four and be the third one seed in the Final Four here. Okay, now in the Final Four in Indianapolis, we have Duke versus Houston. A lot of people are very high on Duke. I personally love this Houston team. I feel like this is their year. Duke is out 2 starters right now. One's going to come back. Ngungba's going to come back. I feel like this is where Duke's run ends, actually. I feel like a lot of people might have them as their national champion. I feel like this is a spot where I can gain back some of the points I lost to potential upsets. Obviously, yeah, you just win. Duke has a phenomenal ability to win games, but also I feel like Houston's defense can shut them down and carry them into the national championship. Lastly here, we have a phenomenal battle of the juggernauts. These 2 seeds are going to be people's greatest choices to win the tournament. Obviously, yeah, you see like another just insanely 50-50 game. Kaysen is out for Michigan, which makes things a little interesting. Obviously, he's not one of their better he's one of their better players, but not one of their highest used players. Like, they have other players that are more evident in their lineup. Like I said earlier in the video, Arizona is one of my favorites to win the national title. I'm going to have them beating the Michigan Wolverines in the Final Four. Lastly, we have another Big 12 matchup and rematch of the championship with Houston and Arizona. Go with my gut here. Like I said earlier, I have to trust Arizona to win. I have to trust Arizona to win. I feel like they're too good. They're healthy right now. Braden Burris versus Kingston Flemings is going to be a phenomenal guard matchup. I feel like the consistency and just the ability to win tough matchups against the top ranked teams is going to carry them to be a national title winner. So yeah, that's my first initial thoughts and gut reactions bracket. Obviously this will definitely blow up in flames after the first day, but here it is. I'll submit it here. Yeah, this is where I'm at right now. I'm sure it'll change over the next few days, but this is my initial reactions bracket. So I hope you enjoyed. Peace.